Welcome back, all my 40k fanatics out there. I'm DJ here with Tim's Nation to talk to you about some of the Necron lists that I've recently featured on this channel. If you guys haven't subscribed to my channel already, please do. Turn on the bell for notifications to get notified on more videos such as this one and other faction-focused videos. Today, I want to take you over the two lists that I ran, some of the changes I've made, and also give the Annihilation Legion a grade for how I feel it's going to do in the competitive environment. So, recently on the channel, I put two different armies out here with Necrons, one of which is my Canoptek Harvest that I've been working on against my buddy Brian and his Blood Angels, as well as I put out an army of Renowned for the Necrons called the Annihilation Legion. When we heard that all the army of Renown were going to be removed, I stopped looking at this army because I thought it was gone. And then with the balanced data slate updates, it showed that this army was actually still legal and viable. So that gave me the motivation to dust off the tons and tons of random destroyers I have and give this list a try. It did not go well. Votann beat me up real bad. We're not going to talk about the Blood Angel game because I really want people to check that one out. It was a very, very close game. But for those who like to see destroyers and Necrons get their faces rubbed into the ground, that Votann video is for you. So let's start with the Annihilation Legion, because that's going to be the longer topic of this. The Annihilation Legion is an army of renown that allows you to take some unique abilities while losing the command protocols from the book. You do get their own set of command protocols, but that does not mean you get to select one of those to stay in effect for the game. So now you're back to old command protocol rules. You cannot take a dynasty, but you do not get a dynastic trait. This means that the dynastic relics and the dynastic stratagem are available. So keep that in mind with these armies of renown, because you can still use the Novak +1 attack or the Zarek deny the witch stratagem. You just do not get your dynastic traits, such as the Nikolic objective secured, or Mefrit's boost to range weapons. So, moving on from that, what you do get is their own kind of pseudo dynasty that says, and this is very specific, when a model declares when a model declares an attack against a unit, if that unit has taken a casualty, then the model gets +1 to hit. If the unit is under 50%, then you get an additional +1 to wound as well. For this means this is an army that you want to attack and resolve each individual model when making an attack. For example, we'll say 3 Locust Destroyers. Locust Destroyers are the ones with 3 shots apiece at strength 6, -3, D3 damage. So if you shoot with this unit at a 5-man intercessor squad, you elect to shoot with one model. He gets 3 shots, hits with 2 of them, wounds with 2 of them, and kills 1 guy, maybe 2. Either way, now when you go to shoot with the second model, it specifically says when a model is elected to fire with. And you guys can check through, but if you look into the rule book and you look specifically, I believe it's page 112 or close to it, when it talks about allocating attacks, although we do roll dice bulkingly, the game is built to roll for each model individually. And this is an army and a unit that can really maximize the effect out of it. Because now, since a model's been removed as a casualty, the next model then gets +1 to hit. And then if you do lower the squad to 50%, the last model could get +1 to wound, and really being able to help finish it off. While this seems like it would lead to a very slow game, you do have to keep in mind that the Necrons as a whole are not re-rolling a lot of dice. So you get some reroll 1s inherently off the destroyers and reroll 1s to wound if you have a lord around, but you're not re-rolling massive bulks of dice, and you're not rolling a lot of dice either until you get to Scorpex in combat, and flayed ones as well. Flayed ones, yes, and Ophidians. So with that, it looks very strong there on paper. You get down to some of the warlord traits that you get. You get a warlord trait that allows sixes to hit are double exploding sixes as opposed to just a single. And that going on a Scorpek Lord with a sideways swing, doubling his attacks, can be vicious. They also get some unique warlord traits. Nothing really too crazy. I'm sorry, relics. Nothing really too crazy to go home to. The Hexmark can combine all his pistols for a relic and have one straight 9 shot, but still not that much value behind that. And the Scorpek Lord can replace his blade with a stronger blade that any damage that would be in excess. So if you do 3 damage to a 2 damage model and you 1 damage would just float away, that excess damage carries over into the squad. So that's pretty cool. It's pretty good, and going on a Scorpek Lord could actually see some play and actually do some damage. However, the only objective secured you get in this army is flayed ones at 10 models or more. That leads to the first rough kind of problem. Now, there is a stratagem, which I'll talk about, which I thought was some of my tech for it. But looking at the flayed ones and what their cost is and the support that you can give them. Flayed ones do well in an environment where a overlord can give them my will be done. Or they land next to Zarek and he's able to give them full rerolls. So I don't think that this list necessarily inherently gives them the environment to do much else outside of just being a unit that can be -1 to hit for a command point and objective secure deep striker on the points. That's not saying that flayed ones can't do well in other builds. I don't think the Destroyer Cult is really the damage build for the flayed ones. So let's talk about some more of the pros, because it seems like we're kind of going down a cycle of what's not really good. They do have a 2 command point strat that allows you to pick a unit in your command phase and give it objective secured. That is one of the things that made me want to run this list, because the way I looked at it, and after discussion with this with one of my buddies, Graham, we were discussing different strategies and how this army could play. And the secondaries I thought would do well with this army were Purge the Vermin, which is polarizing, I know, but just hear me out. Ancient Machineries and Treasure of Aeons. I'm sorry, not Ancient Machineries. Raise the Banners and Treasure of Aeons. So my thoughts with the Treasure and the Raised Banner is I can separate across the field quickly and hold one of the corner objectives for Treasure of Aeons for 2 points, play a very defensive castle game and draw a line down center, and anything that comes up to center, jump out and eliminate it by giving it the resources that I choose in the form of destroyers and remove those units. And finally, with banners, I can put a banner up on 2 objectives easily and score 10 points on it. That center objective, I can take my Lord and give him, spend 2 command points on a Locust Lord, move him to the middle, and have a squad of flayed ones, Ophidians, whomever, put the banner down. Now, when my opponent comes in and wants to take the objective away from me, some armies can just shoot me off the objective, and then I don't have it, but the banner stays. And if you want to take that away from me, now to get the objective secured off of there, you may have to eliminate a unit before you can get to the character that has objective secured that is being protected by Scorpeks or Ophidians or something like that. So that means that banner can get me a couple more points than it should have, even down to an end game point if I can tag that at the late into the game. And then Treasure of Aeons, if I can keep dinging that middle objective every turn at the end of the turn and control it all game long, there's 15. So that seemed like a really strong game plan going into that. There's a 1 command point strat that allows any unit to advance and charge. Scorpeks advancing and charging is huge. Ophidians advancing and charging is also huge. And another one, which I completely misread, and moving forward with this, Ophidians are probably the best unit out of the Destroyer Cult, simply on the fact that they have access to a stratagem that allows them to ignore Feel No Pains and damage caps. This means that now granted, I'm talking a spectacular dice roll and your opponent flubs one. But, to be fair, these guys theoretically could take a Bloodthirster down in one go. They have enough damage. They ignore the damage cap. They could take him down in one go. Granted, there is a lot of things that need to happen for this to happen, but hey, it could happen. So those were a bunch of cool things that I thought was going to work with this army really well. I thought I could play that into it. And then, this, as the saying goes, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face. And that was what Votann did. Votann was able to outrange me severely. And I was not able to put enough damage out there with single-shot weapons to make it matter versus Hecatons. I was able to veil out a squad of locusts and remove a unit of the Pioneers, which are his only fast objective secured, but it wasn't enough. Over time, he outranged me and was able to pick off destroyers as I tried to float back and forth between buildings and could really not sustain enough damage. Going into this meta with Marines, Iron Hands having Feel No Pain, and just all the different Melta weapons, all the destroyers struggle. They struggle going into the Melta. They struggle going into the multi-damage weapons, and you end up losing models really quickly. Not having an invuln hurts so bad. There's no way that I have found, and if somebody can find a way that can give units in the Annihilation Legion an invuln, please let me know in the comment section. But I have scoured that book. I have looked at every which way outcome of it. The best I can see is being able to, with the Destroyer Legion protocols, being able to boost your save to a 2-up, or giving yourself +1 toughness, which I like the +1 toughness, but they're both situational. So there's no invuln. Your guys are just getting hit and dropping. All in all, that leads to this army not really being able to do much except castle, and there are other armies that castle better than it. And the stretches that you have to go to push this forward and make this work, I don't really think are there. So wrapping this up, to give this a final grade, I have to give this right now in the competitive meta a C-. While there is a lot of abilities that other armies wish to have, with having objective secured being wherever you want it, whenever you want it, and on a position, that isn't enough to carry over the fact that the weapons in the game right now eliminate destroyers at a ridiculous rate. Destroyers do not have the stats to be able to hold up against massive amounts of multi-melta. Salamanders with their +1 to wound will just laugh at the T5 and 3-up saves. And a lot of other armies will feel that very, very, very same way. Armies that will typically win the game because they outnumber you will make you feel that even more in this matchup. And armies that are very specialized, such as Custodes, are going to be able to pick their targets, select them, and bring you down. Now, the reason I don't go lower than a C in this factor is there are still a lot of benefits. The directive, the dynasty trait that you get to be able to eliminate units, if you have that time to practice it and can get very, very precise with where those units need to be, that could be very, very strong and lead to wins that otherwise maybe other armies couldn't have pushed through. The fact that Ophidians can just tear through a damage cap and feel no pain is remarkable. Advancing and charging with Scorpek units, amazing. Objective secured for the cost of a stratagem. A Scorpek Lord that can actually do damage. Those are all things that I think could work very, very well, but I'm not sure if it's going to be enough at this time with what the meta looks like to be able to hold their own. Now, with that being said, does that mean that I'm going to shelf it and never play it again? I might give it a second chance. I need to get some Ophidians painted up. I need to get my Locust painted up. I don't want to put that back on the table unpainted. And at the same time, there is another army of a renown focused around Canoptek and Cryptex, And anyone who's seen some of my other lists and other armies know that's one that I'm spending a very, very fine amount of time trying to tool that thing so it can actually work. It's tough, but we're going to give that one a go here soon. So moving past that competitive list over to another competitive list, I want to talk about what I've been using recently, which is my Canoptek Harvest, as I call it. I call it that because of formations that used to be in the game, and one of them was very, very similar to this, where you would take wraiths and spiders, and then the wraiths were able to get reanimation protocols because they didn't always have it. As long as you had one spider that was basically chained to and tethered to your wraiths as they moved across the field. So when I played against the Blood Angels, there was one thing that I noticed that was an issue that I didn't like, and that was my ability to resolve Ancient Machinery at the end of the turn. So I made one change to the list. First, I dropped that extra spider I had in there. He was kind of floating around, not really doing anything, and the 3-man was doing just fine. And then I dropped one squad of Scarabs, which was a very, very, very tough decision for me. I love running 3 squads of them, but I think I added something in that will fill their role very nicely, but also help balance my army in a way that I wasn't thinking about before. I put 19 warriors with God's Reaper in there. So the 19 warriors with God's Reaper in the Novak Dynasty, just to run down what we're looking at for these guys in a whole, is 19 guys with a toughness 4 and a 4-up save. They can get hit for a 5-up invuln off of my Chronomancer, and they can gain +1 to their charges, +1 to their move off the forced march, and the reroll charges off the Chronomancer as well. They're a unit that I'm going to probably advance more times than not, since their Gauss Reaper is an assault weapon, and with that higher strength, higher AP, that's a very, and more shots as well, since it's assault. That is a very, very damaging weapon at close range. On top of that, because we are Novak, we have access to 1 command point strat to give us +1 attack, 1 command point strat to give us +1 strength. These guys can go rushing in with Novak Dynasty traits +2 command point stratagem, 1 each, to give us a strength 6, -1, 2 attacks apiece, 19 guys from out of nowhere, and their objective security. These guys are going to be just someone to push across the field. In some matchups, especially like I was saying before with the Marines and the heavy Melta matchups, if there's a ton of Melta guns facing me down across the field, that's fine. I'll put the Warriors on the front line. Go ahead and hit them. That's reanimation protocols all day. And it's a great target for my 1 Resurrection Orb that I have in the army on my Overlord. So that's kind of what I think with those guys that's going to really help boost my game, is just their having 1 objective secured unit. Some games I could put them in strategic. For the most part, I think they're going to be on the battlefield. And in my Blood Angels game, one of my Scarab units was in the backfield, kind of covering out a little bit. So I think that the Warriors can provide that same role. They can be the unit that is able to push up out the field, play some of the reanimation games to be able to expand that unit and get extra move out of them just by reanimating guys in the shooting phase. And on top of that, making my opponent question if they even want to shoot at them, because here I am creeping over into their side of the field. So all in all, that's kind of what I've been thinking about the last couple of weeks, last couple of games, last couple of days with these armies and these lists. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and stay tuned for more videos focused on these armies, because we're going to be looking to get ready for a tournament soon, and this might be the list that I take. It's between this and one other that I'm looking at for possibly taking to a GT, one that I find one to sign up for here soon, and these are the ones I'm looking. So wish me luck, guys, and I look forward to some support, comments, questions, and ideas on these lists and what people think. As always, thanks for watching. I'll talk to you guys again soon.